All right. Well, welcome to 5 Steps to Improve Your English Before Christmas. My name is Lara Wallace. And what I would love for you to do is to get ready to take notes because I think these 5 tips are going to help you with your goals, specifically to set your goals and then figure out how to implement them. Now, this session is for you if you are not getting called back after job interviews, if you're giving a presentation and your mind goes blank, and if you just generally stay quiet to avoid the embarrassment of being misunderstood, right? This is especially for you. But if you're here also to generally improve your fluency, to improve your speaking, and you don't have any of those scary things, you are also going to get something out of this. All right. So if it's our first time meeting, what I do is I help sustainability professionals and advocates to speak English more confidently and effectively. Now, I've been working with sustainability professionals for the past 5 years, but my work started back in 2006, and I have taught thousands of individuals how to express complicated topics in a way that people understand. I've helped people to be able to pronounce and speak clearly so that they could teach and so that they could help others in group projects. And I've also helped people to excel in their jobs, their careers, and their studies. So that's a little bit about where I'm coming from. Feel free to look at my LinkedIn profile for more information or to ask questions. Now, today, what we're going to be doing in this session is I'm going to walk you through the 5-step process to improve your English before Christmas. It doesn't necessarily need to be Christmas. In fact, if some of you are watching this video later, think of it as a 5-step process to improve your English in a month's time, in just 1 month, because you can make that kind of improvement. So get ready to take notes. After we go through the 5-step process, I'm going to tell you a little bit about possible next steps for you that I think you'll find really useful. All right, great. So what we're going to start with before we get into the 5 steps is a technique called PQ reps. And this comes from positive intelligence. Positive intelligence is basically an operating system for you to cultivate your mental fitness so that you can stay calm. Because when you can stay calm, when you can stay clear-headed, when you can focus, that is when you can speak fluently, you can reduce your nervousness, and you can come up with a lot of ideas that you need in order to help you. And with these 5 steps, I very much want this to be something practical for you so that as we go through the 5 steps, you can say, okay, this is what I want to do for step 1. This is what I want to do for step 2. And you'll be able to do that if you're coming from a place of focus. So we'll just do this for about a minute. Please follow me. What we're going to do is just center ourselves. So I'd like for you to start just by feeling the chair that you are sitting on. Notice the feeling of the chair that you're sitting on. If you're sitting on a couch or something else, notice everywhere that it's supporting you. If your feet are on the floor, notice the feeling of the feet on your floor. And when your brain says, what are we doing? Just go back to noticing that sensation. Now let's shift for a moment. I'd like for you to take 2 of your fingertips and just rub them together gently, noticing the texture. I just want you to feel that sensation of rubbing your fingertips together. Focus on it so that you can feel your fingertip ridges, the fingerprints. And just do that for a few seconds. And when your brain starts to make comments to you, go back to noticing that feeling. Those are some PQ reps for feeling, for sensing. Let's do just a few for breathing, because this is where it's really helpful. And this is something I go into with clients who want to explore this, but we'll just do something very easy now. So notice your breath. Just notice your breathing. Notice as you breathe, the rise and the fall of your chest or your abdomen. That's it. Just notice. And now let's take 1 or 2 deep breaths, but we'll do that together. So we're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1, and exhale for 3, 2, 1. We'll do that one more time. Inhale together for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 3, 2, 1. And let your breath go back to its regular pattern. Just notice your breath. Notice the temperature of the air going into your nose. Notice the temperature of the air as you exhale. All right, so I'm hoping now, feel free to use the react button on Zoom if you're here with me live. Do you feel a little bit more focused? A little focused? Hopefully you didn't zone out too much. All right, so let's get into it. We have 5 steps. Step 1 is to prioritize. We are going to prioritize. In other words, by prioritize, what do you most need to do right now with your English? What is the most important thing to you? Stop and consider. You might write it down. Where do you struggle with English? Is it with finding your words? Is it with speaking without saying, And what's your biggest need right now? So some examples of step 1, prioritize, are maybe you really need to reduce your nervousness when you speak. If you get really nervous when you're speaking with others, maybe your priority is not to be so nervous. So how do we do that? We'll get to it. Maybe your priority is, it's not the English, it's the job. I need a better job. I need to change something in my career. If that's what's going on for you, that's your priority. Or maybe if you have presentations, and when you give presentations, you notice people don't seem to be understanding them. Maybe being understood when you give presentations is the priority for you. All right, so step 1, priority. You can only start working on things quickly and with focus when you know what is important. So that is the foundation of everything. All right, step 2 is plan. So when we're thinking about planning for step 2, we need to think, what is the next best step? So take a minute and think about that. Given your goal, given your priority that you just came up with, what is the next best step for you? And if that task feels too big, if you're thinking to yourself something like, I need to start a job search to get a better job. I need to network with other professionals. I need to practice speaking so that when I have a job interview, I can speak confidently. All right, so those are pretty big things that you need to do, best next steps. So what is a small step that you can do to start? For example, if you need to find opportunities for a job, maybe your next best step is to come up with a list of search terms for the types of jobs that you want. Or maybe if you need to network with people, come up with a list of names or a list of companies that you're thinking about. That's it. We're just thinking the next best step. All right, so once you have that next best step, it becomes possible through your step 2 plan, through the plan to keep finding those next best steps and keep taking them. All right. So if reducing nervousness when you're speaking, if that's your goal, you might think, well, why do I get nervous? Maybe it's because I don't always have the vocabulary that I need. I don't have the words. So what you would do then is come up with your next best step for building vocabulary. So where are the contexts where you feel like you're at a loss for words? Where would you find language like that? Can you read publications in your field? Can you listen to podcasts or different visionaries in your field and hear what they're saying and maybe write down some of those words and start working with them? That could be one of those steps. So when we think about the next best step, then what you can do is think, well, I'm going to be reading this paper this afternoon. Maybe as I read my paper, I'm going to make note of some of these words that I want to make sure to be able to say when I need to, right? All right. Maybe if you're thinking about reducing nervousness, perhaps one of the things that makes you nervous is the pronunciation, because English, the sounds, the rhythm, the tones, they are pretty different from other languages. So if that's something that you're thinking about, you can start small there. So how can you start to improve your pronunciation? Well, maybe there are a few words that come up again and again, like maybe it's somebody's name, or maybe it's the name of a place, or maybe it's some common word you use in your field. What you can do is say, I'm going to figure out how to pronounce that word today. Let me look into that. Let me ask about that. All right. So you see with this step 2 plan that we just want to find the next best step. And once we have that, how can we break that down into something a little bit smaller? So last example with step 2 plan. If you are working on being understood in presentations, you give presentations, people don't seem to understand. So you might ask yourself, what do I need to do differently so that people understand? Is it because I'm not planning what to say very carefully and I'm talking and talking and talking, and then I finally get to my point at the end, but people are, I've lost them before then? Well, then you might think maybe I need to plan a little bit better. So I have a presentation coming up next week. I'm going to start with the purpose of my presentation so that people understand what it is. And then I'll support that. And then at the end, leave them again with that purpose. All right. So maybe you need to plan. So your next best step is to create an outline. Create an outline and have the main point be front and center. Okay. Or maybe when you're giving presentations, you find that you get really nervous and you start speaking really fast, and then you start speaking in a low voice like this. And right. So this happens when some of us get nervous, we start speaking quickly, our intonation flattens out, we lower our volume, and it makes it hard for people to understand. So of course, they're not going to understand us if we're talking about something complicated, if they can't pick up on those cues with your intonation, if they can't hear the words that you're saying, right? So what is the smaller step of that? Maybe what you're going to do is work on speaking more slowly and pausing between sentences so that you can breathe, so that you can stay calm when you speak, so that you don't speed up, right? So plan. It's all about taking that next step and breaking it down into very small, doable steps. This is probably something you've heard about before. I'm telling you, it works. That's the reason why you've heard about it before. All right, so we have step 1, prioritize. Step 2, plan. Now, step 3 is personalize. What you want to do if you want to go really quickly is you want to make sure that whatever you're learning, whatever feedback you're getting, whatever strategies you want to use, make sure that they are personalized to your needs. Make sure that you are learning from mentors who can address your needs. Now, I will tell you, I have just spent the last 3 days working on creating web pages. I laugh because I never thought that I would do this in a million years. I was always very afraid of doing any kind of tech related to website creation. My brother is a web designer and he has been for years. So I know all about, the bad websites. And I'm not saying that my website's good, by the way. But what I will tell you is this: how did I get to the point where I could build web pages from being afraid of doing it and not even trying just 2 years ago? Well, first, I prioritized. I thought, okay, I'm tired of coming up with all of these ideas for really cool courses, for different giveaways. I have all of these ideas, but what I'm tired of is I'm tired of bothering my web designer and saying, hey, can you please build a page, this and that and the other thing, right? So so what I did was I set the priority and I said, I need to learn how to do this myself so that I can more quickly help my clients and create these things for them. And so after I prioritized that, I planned it. And I said, what can I do to get this? The plan was to find a system that was usable without having a background in web design. So this brings us to step 3, personalize. So this learning these different things about how to construct web pages, that's not something that I know about. So I needed to find a mentor, somebody who could help me, who was able to talk to me in a way that I could understand so that they could help walk me through my problems, give me strategies so that I could improve, right? And that's basically what you're going to do with your English. So whatever goals you have with your English, you prioritize them, you make the plan by breaking it down into small steps like we just discussed. And then step 3, personalize. You learn strategies, you get feedback from mentors who can address your needs. So what does this look like when it comes to English skills? So if you have the goal, if your priority is to reduce your nervousness when you're speaking, then what you want to do is work with somebody to try to figure out what is it about speaking makes you nervous. Because then once you do that, they can give you strategies to help reduce your nerves. And I'll tell you in a little bit about a client of mine who recently did that, and I'm super proud of her. Let's look at another situation. Let's say that you are looking to get a better job. So you've got job interviews coming up. Now, what you want to do with this personalized step is think about talking to somebody, finding out who can give you a good process for preparing for your job interview. Because it is a process. You don't want to just get a big list of questions and start practicing your answers. There's a lot more to it than that if you really want to create a good impression. So what you can do is you can find a mentor for that. I'm here for that. I got you covered. What if your situation is that you want to be understood in presentations? Okay, so it's great when you can find a colleague who can give you some feedback, a mentor who can say, hey, when you're talking with this group of people, make sure you're talking about this, right? They can help you with the content. They can help you with finding stories that connect maybe. But if you need a mentor, if you really need some instruction to personalize your plan for you and give you feedback, then you want to find somebody who can help you organize your content, like we talked about before. You might want to find somebody who can help you deliver your presentation in a way that people will understand so that you can get that personalized feedback. All right, so we've covered 3 out of the 5 steps so far. Step 1, prioritize. Step 2, plan. Step 3, personalize. So that brings us to step 4, which I really hope is not going to be a surprise for you. Step 4 is practice. So if you want better English in a short time, it's great to come up with the ideas. Okay, I'm prioritizing this. I'm going to do these things to be able to work on my goals. I'm going to use this next step. I'm going to get some personalized feedback and some strategies. That's great. Okay, all of that's mental though. That's not actually doing. You have to do the thing too. So if you want to speak English more effectively, the only way you can do that is by speaking. And practice makes fluent, not perfect. Practice makes fluent. Say it with me if you want to. Practice makes fluent. So really, understanding is one thing, but being able to have those words go through your brain and out of your mouth into the world, that requires you speaking. That requires you to use your muscles to articulate those words. So those words, they can be difficult to say, but when you practice them, you'll find, especially if you have a good mentor like me, then you can say them more easily. No matter what language you are learning, whether it's English or something else, there will be sounds, there will be rhythms, there will be tones and intonation that are unfamiliar. And the only way to get good is to practice. All right. So we want to practice. The other benefit of practicing, apart from exercising your understanding, exercising your speaking, is that you can, when you're practicing, you can react and interact with other people in real time. And that is really valuable because you can tell if what you're saying works, right? So if you're able to converse with somebody at the same time, that's great. You can also do that asynchronously. In other words, you can send voice messages and get feedback that way. So there are a lot of ways that you can practice. Let's look at what that looks like in terms of those 3 examples that I've been carrying through this. All right. So step 4, practice. If you are looking to reduce your nervousness when you speak, you can do more of those PQ reps that we practiced just a few minutes ago to calm and center, right? If you work that in as a habit, then it's going to help you to stay centered, to breathe, and just to focus and to learn more. So that could be one thing that you practice to reduce your nerves. If you're looking to get a better job, what can you practice? You can practice, of course, answering job interview questions. That's helpful. Like I said before, with the personalized step, find some strategies that are going to work for that situation. So don't just practice answering job interview questions, practice answering them with a specific strategy so that people understand. One of the strategies that I teach my clients when they're learning how to answer job interview questions is the STAR technique: situation, task, action, result. That's the template for organization. So you start with your situation, the context in which you were working. Then you give the task. What was it that you were doing that is relevant to the question that they asked? What was the action that you took? And then what was the result of that action? If you practice using that STAR technique to answer job interview questions, then you're going to find that you can speak more concisely and save time. So that way there is more time overall for your interviewers to ask you more questions. All right. So this is one thing that you can practice. Let's look at being understood in presentations. So there are a lot of things you can practice. You can practice outlining. You can practice, again, like think of a template. What's a good way to organize your info? And then practice that. Practice coming up with outlines really fast. Like if you have a meeting and you have to, give the latest update on something. how are you going to organize that? Practice writing out that outline so that when you get to the meeting, you can just talk off of those points and remember what you wanted to say. Or if delivery of presentations is something that you struggle with, if you need to practice projecting your voice, then what you want to practice is speaking from the diaphragm, pushing the air out from your diaphragm, like I'm doing now. You probably heard that change in tone, right? So normally when I'm speaking in front of the computer, my voice is coming from here. But when I'm speaking to groups of people, it's coming from the diaphragm. So these are different things that you can practice. All right, we have looked at 4 out of the 5 steps. Step 1, what was it? Prioritize. Step 2, plan. Step 3, personalize. Usually that means get some sort of a mentor. Step 4, practice. Now step 5 is partner. And this is the last step. So partner, what do I mean by that? I basically mean get a partner, somebody who you can work with, somebody who shares the same goal, or somebody who's really able to support you as you work towards your goal. So one way that you can partner up is by joining a community. So if there's a community of people and everybody's working on improving their English in one way or another, it's great. Because when you have that partnership, when you're working with other people, not only do you have somebody you can share with, so maybe you did something that's a big deal for you. Maybe you read a whole chapter in a book that you've been, letting sit on your nightstand for the last 2 weeks because instead you're scrolling, right? And you could share with the community, hey, I just read this chapter finally. It was about this, and I'm really excited I was able to use my English, right? That's great. Not everybody in your personal life will care about that, but there's a group of people who will care and they will cheer you on. Or sometimes we need partners to help us to stay accountable, right? So we talked about planning, prioritizing and planning. That's all great. But if you get distracted, are you going to stick to those plans? Maybe not. But if you're wanting somebody to help hold you accountable, then you're going to tell other people about it and say, hey, I have, for example, this job interview coming up. I need to practice a few questions, right? And if you tell people, they will, if they haven't heard from you, hey, have you had your job interview yet? Have you been able to practice those questions? Why don't you practice with me? Okay. So this is really important. You can share your priorities. You can share your plans with your partner, or partners, whatever. You can share your personalized strategies with them, and you can practice with them. And it's just a really nice thing to do. So for example, if you're working on reducing nervousness, how would you use step 5? Partner. Well, you could ask people, because this is something that so many people struggle with. You could say, hey, what has helped you to become less nervous when you speak? And people will tell you. If you have a good group of people, a good community, then they'll tell you. What about getting a better job? So if you're looking for another job, you might say, hey, do any of you have job leads in solar? I'm looking in this region. Or maybe you just need somebody to help you celebrate your efforts. I know that can sound a little bit weird, but it's a big deal. So for example, I was telling you before about how I've been working on these web pages. It's a big deal to me. Does my family care about it? I don't think so. They don't, but I do have a few friends who they are also trying to work on it, and I can tell them and they're like, yeah, that's awesome. Oh my gosh. And it really does help to have a few people you can celebrate these things with, because that gives you more energy to keep doing what you're doing so you can keep improving your English. That's how you improve quickly with these 5 steps. When it comes to presentations, how can you employ step 5, partner? Presentations, maybe you're wondering, okay, I have this topic. I'm not sure if people are going to understand my explanation. Let me try it. And you can explain it and say, hey, what did you understand? Which part was confusing? Or maybe you're trying to find some sort of a story or an analogy that will connect with your audience and you're not sure. So you can try it out with these guys. So what I'm proposing to you is, if you have a specific goal and you're following these 5 steps, then if you have all of those pieces, you can work on something iteratively. You can, and specifically your English, whichever one of those English priorities you have, you can break it down and work on it step by step and really find that you're improving. So one of my clients who, let's see, I think she joined in April. She joined the Hub. So the Hub is my monthly membership. She had been working in the United States for, I can't remember, a couple of months, I think. And anyway, she's from Mexico. She can speak English, but she was really nervous about speaking English with her coworkers. And so she joined the Hub, and through the Hub, she decided, okay, I need to prioritize practice. The reason why I'm so nervous, in part, is because I don't get enough practice speaking English. So in the Hub, she was able to engage in our practice opportunities. She was able to plan her schedule so she could join us. She participated in our community. She got feedback that was personalized from me. And in our community, she shared recently, hey, I've got an interview at work coming up. And guess what? Practice paid off. Her practice paid off. Her focus paid off. Those 5 steps paid off because she, going into her interview weeks ago, she said, you know what? I can speak now with my colleagues without being nervous. And even though she was a little bit nervous for this interview, she did well and she got some good news. So that's what I'm saying. These 5 steps are really useful. Let me review them again for you. And then I have some questions for you to consider to make sure that you're applying this to your situation. So again, the 5 steps. Step 1, prioritize. Step 2, plan. Step 3, personalize. Step 4, practice. Step 5, partner for accountability. So I'm going to ask you some questions. You can just consider them. Step 1, prioritize. Do you know what you want to prioritize so that you can speak English more confidently in a month's time? Step 2, plan. Do you know your next step? What's going to be your next step? All right, so step 3 is personalize. With this personalized step, my question to you with personalize is, do you think you found somebody who can help you with strategy, with feedback, with helping you prioritize and plan? Because I can help. Let's look at step 4. This is really important. For step 4, practice, do you have an idea of what you want to practice? When you're trying to improve something like your spoken English confidence, that's a pretty big thing. So we have to start going back and thinking, okay, so confidence is my priority. Plan, what's my next step? So what's the thing that's making me lack confidence? Oh my God, well, maybe it's I haven't spoken English hardly at all for 10 years, or I haven't studied English since high school. Okay, if that's the case, then you need to think, well, what is my next step? I need to put myself in a situation where I have the opportunity to practice and to review and to continue learning and to figure out how to apply what I'm learning. Right? Then you personalize it. Find somebody, me, who can help you personalize and figure out, well, what is it about the confidence? What specifically do I need? Is it pronunciation? Is it practice? Is it vocab? Is it this particular group of people I need to speak with, this particular speaking situation? There are lots of strategies you can employ. All right. And then 4, what to practice. If it's confidence, depending on what the need is, you practice that. So if your confidence is lacking because of pronunciation, you practice pronunciation. If your confidence is lacking because you never get a chance to speak English, then you practice speaking. If your confidence is lacking because you're always worried about, this is one I hear a lot, native speakers judging you, then you need to practice getting into your body and not listening to that voice in your head telling you that everybody's judging you, because that's not going to help. There are techniques to get over that. That's something I can help you with too. All right, so step 5, my last question for you. Step 5, partner for accountability. Do you have somebody in mind or a group of people in mind where you can share all of the above? If not, well, I have something that can help you with each of these 5 steps, and that is the hub. So I'm going to tell you briefly about the hub, because I want you to start improving your English so that in a month's time, by Christmas, by 1 month from now, you're speaking English better. All right, so let me show you briefly the hub. Basically, the hub is a community of English speakers who are looking to be able to speak more confidently, more effectively. And we get together once a week and have live calls. We get together and we have either a lesson or we have a conversation call. And it's 1 hour. You get to practice, you get to learn something. The best part is that you get to set the topic. So how do we do that? Well, we have a WhatsApp community. And in the WhatsApp community, if nobody says, hey, I need to work on this, then I say, hey guys, for next week's lesson, what do you need to work on? What are your priorities? And then people will recommend things, and then I design a lesson. That's how it works. So I'm always making these lessons based on what people say they need. And if you're not sure what you need, we can talk about that in the WhatsApp group too, to figure out what you need. All right, so the way that the hub can help you is you can figure out how to prioritize, step 1, using that chat in WhatsApp. Step 2, plan. In the hub, I have a map for you. You can see in this map, we have different areas that you can focus on. We have a section on pronunciation, on job interview preparation, on presentation skills, fluency and confidence, vocabulary building, small talk and conversation skills, and learning and mindset. That's where this video is going to go. It's going to go under learning and mindset. So what you can do is pick from those one of your priorities, and then you can go in and find the guide, find the study plan, watch the lesson recordings, use the resources. If you're interested, I have other courses. You can dive in and take a whole course if you want, right? But basically, you can get into the hub and start working on your priorities, and there's already a plan in place. And in terms of step 3, personalize, that's me. That's what I help you with. I give you strategy through the lessons. I give you strategy through the WhatsApp group. I give you strategy through our weekly live calls. Step 4, practice. You get to practice in WhatsApp whenever you want. There are always practice opportunities. You have practice opportunities in the weekly live calls as well. Step 5, the partner accountability. I love our WhatsApp group. People are really supportive. It's active, but it's not constantly binging. But what I love about the hub and what the clients love about the hub is that you can go at your own rate. So you can either join the live calls and just maybe do that, or you can work on your own schedule, going through those lessons on your own time and using WhatsApp. All right, so this is what I want to invite you to. those, I think, for many of you are going to be your next steps. All right. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for everybody for attending. I really appreciate your time. And I hope that you improve your English before Christmas within 1 month's time. And let me know how I can help you. I hope to see you in the hub.